In today's training demonstration, we're going to work with MetaStock XENITH's floating apps, and we're going to create a couple of personalized workspaces. So let's start by creating a new workspace. This is done by selecting the plus sign on the XENITH toolbar. And now that we have a workspace created, let's go to the Helios, and let's start by adding a quote list to our workspace. You can select one of the existing quote lists, or we can create a new quote list. Let's create a new quote list. And we're going to give it a name. Let's create a quote list with the Dow Jones. In the search box, let's type in Dow, and you'll see that the auto suggest gives us a bunch of options to select from. Let's select the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index. And we're going to click on the arrow next to the instrument, and it's going to populate our quote list with all of the constituents. Next, let's add a chart to our workspace. Let's go back up into the command line and let's type in Apple. And from the auto suggest, let's select chart. And that brings up a chart of Apple. And let's go ahead and position this floating app where we'd like to put it in our workspace. So we can move the two apps together and they will snap into place. And you know that they've snapped into place because the icon right here will change, and when you hover your mouse over it, it will say ungroup. Once the two apps have been snapped together, they will move as a single app. And you can easily ungroup the apps by simply clicking on the icon. So let's add a few more apps to our workspace. Let's add an overview page. So from the command line, let's type in United States. And select overview. And let's position that on our workspace. You can also stack your apps. This can be done by dragging an app by the toolbar and dropping it on top of another app. So I'm going to ungroup my chart, and I'm going to stack it over on top of the overview. And you can see that these two apps are now stacked. And it's easy to unstack these apps simply by just grabbing onto the tab and dragging it over to an empty space on your workspace. And apps are easy to resize just by simply dragging and resizing them. If you have more than one workspace open, like I do now, you can quickly toggle between workspaces just by clicking onto the workspace tabs at the top. You can also minimize a workspace just by clicking on the workspace twice, once to minimize, and then again to bring it back up onto the screen. So now we're going to review how to save a workspace. You just right-click onto the name of the workspace and select Save As, and let's give it a name. And select OK. To access any of your saved workspaces, you're going to select the drop-down menu More, and then Workspaces. And this will show all of the workspaces that you've created. Thank you for joining our training today on how to create workspaces in MetaStock XENITH.